Hi, it's Nitya with Nitya Living. Got another one for you today. I have to say, my mother would have been amazed to know that she passed away in the same year as Queen Elizabeth II. My family is very British, so that is my lineage, a good bit of it from my mother's side. And yeah, all hail the Queen. And what a long, beautiful life she lived. So, my friends, I'm checking in to share with you some interesting findings from her chart. She was born April 21st, 1926 at 2:40 in the morning. I want to jump right in to her hour and also her life pillar. And remembering that the life pillar is your reason for why you are here. So her year is a Yang fire tiger, month of Yang water dragon, day of Yang metal dragon, hour of Yin fire ox. She is very Yang energy. Little bit of yin to balance things out, but there was a lot of strength to that woman. Her life pillar was a Yang earth rat. Now, this is so interesting. And no, there is no tiger, snake, monkey interference with this beautiful chart. No. But it's amazing. Her hour is exactly right. I mean, the fact that she has, now remember, Putin has 3 dragons. No wonder he's a dictator. She had 2. It's enough of a leadership. She was born to be a leader. A Yang metal dragon. Wow, that is a strong leader. Makes me think of Iron Lady, but I think that was Margaret Thatcher, a prime minister. So anyway, her hour speaks to her career, and it also speaks to her children. So let's first look at the aspect of career, and we see that this is Yin fire, which speaks directly to being someone who is dutiful to her family, her partner, Prince Philip, to her legacy. Her work is all about being in service and duty. Then you add the ox. Well, we know the ox is one of the hardest, most enduring of zodiac animals. This is someone who put everything into her job. And the Yin earth is the mother. She was Queen Mother. Is that amazing, huh? That government and mother being maternal, a maternal figure in government, in servitude to all of her responsibilities and being so family oriented. And this is a job. I love this. You know, this isn't something she chose, right? This was handed to her. And deep-seated in her career is this notion that it asked of her to bring out qualities of herself that were not maybe the most comfortable. I don't know if you've watched The Crown. I think that they've tried to keep it pretty true with some dramatic twists. But, you know, it's like, or if you've read biographies about her, I would imagine as a young bride that this role had to be really asking of her to be things that she didn't see in herself necessarily. So there's that. And there is elements of change. This, a job that not dominant, an undercurrent of just constant change. And so then if we take a step back and look at her sons, well, it's all about duty to her children, being responsible for them, taking care of their needs. And when you look at her daughters, interestingly, they were more of a mother figure for her than vice versa. Yeah. I can't even imagine what that must have been like for her to have been a queen with all of her duties, and also trying to also at the same time be a good mom. So then if we look at, her marriage was really like a spiritual union. This is a soulmate. They inspired each other. They learned from each other. They prospered together. And in some ways, and you could definitely see this in Prince Philip, was this boyishness, that there was some boyishness. There was also maybe a little bit of freedom to be themselves in their union together. So that's very sweet. The current luck cycle she was in was Yang Water Horse, and bringing in fire elements, water elements is interesting. Her chart is, for the most part, very balanced. Earth, what nourishes her as a metal person, is very strong, 30%. Her own element of metal, very balanced at 17%. Water, about 18%. What keeps her motivated and doing and going for 90-some years, 96 years. It's a long life. Wood is the weak element. This is what she controls. She didn't really have control over much, at least in the sovereignty of her own self and her own life. This is somebody that was in servitude. Her entire life was service. And we just discussed that in her career. Amazing. But we're going to come back to another layer of that in a minute. And fire, what controls her? 23%. So, as a ruler, as a queen, she's very balanced. She's strong in herself, steady. And again, coming back to the ox being in her career hour, really beautiful, because it gives her that sustaining longevity with her job. And then we look at her life. Why is she here? Why was she here? And this is Yang Earth Rat. So the Yang Earth brings us to her life is one of being in service. Again, we come back to service. This is something that is divined, a divine life, deeply spiritual. And, if religion has taught us anything, we're here to serve for the welfare of others. And the rat is very much about her sons were a major part of her life and why she was here. And she also came into this life very smart, though I think that she missed out on a lot of education and questioned some of her brilliance. And she was also savvy. had a good intuitive sense. And I think that there was, I don't know if rebellious is the right word, but more like somebody that could have taken her life in many different directions that were different. Yeah, so when you look at the interactions, the rat of her life pillar with the hour of the ox creates more water. Also, the rat with her two dragons also made more water. That surge of water, that again, because that's a life pillar interaction with her birth chart, is a hidden factor. And this is a blessing for her, especially again, given the fact that her career was with the ox, so hardworking. And that water surging, thank heavens she was so strong, is kind of like a constant motivation to keep working. And not so just like the drudgery of the day-to-day work, but the motivation to stay productive, to stay engaged in life in a dynamic way was there. The rat clashes badly with the horse, which is the luck cycle she had just entered last year, that really brought her daughters to the forefront, her family to the forefront. And her duty as mother in the government. All of that is where she's been just this last year, right? And this is water and fire clashing with each other. And interestingly, it's yang water sitting on top of fire in this new luck cycle pillar. And so there's a lot of that dynamic. So remember that there's a surge of water coming in, and that's a hidden aspect of her chart. We have a clash of this water coming in with the horse. And then on top of that, also with this new luck cycle that just started last year, her own ox clashes, is harmed by the horse. And in that interaction, fire is weakened again. And this is what my feeling is, that her heart got weaker and weaker and weaker and gave out. It's my intuitive sense. I could be completely wrong, so don't quote me on that, but that's my intuitive sense. And the thing we have to remember, friends, is that a life is a pulse that goes through periods where it is really strong and times when it is weakened by various conditions that can happen to us. And as we age, I saw this with my parents, and the life force begins to weaken. The 5 elements begin to slowly collapse. And I would venture to guess for her, one of the first elements to become weak was fire, and possibly also her liver, because remember, the wood element is also weak, or spleen. Another interesting piece in her chart that I'll mention before wrapping up is the 2 dragons form a self-punishment or a self-affliction, that it's kind of like you are, you've got 2 voices in your head that are always battling with each other. It's hard to make a decision possibly because you can't quite decide what's the right thing to do. The other thing that made me think of her was this affliction can also signal somebody that is very, especially since the dragons fall in her day and her month where her parents are, This is old patterns. It's like someone who has a fixed mindset, an old pattern of thinking, sticking with the status quo, sticking with the way things have always been, going with tradition. This is not someone who was progressive, someone who pushed the envelope, though I think that was really in her life pillar. But I think that she resisted it. And I think that she really wanted to keep the traditions of the royal family and that institution as it had been. So very, very interesting, her chart. Oh, I'll share with you some other little tidbits here, is that she was very supported by her own family. And again, the first thing I look at is somebody that was, narrow-minded, that, fixed mindset. And, as a leader, maybe that's good for staying the course, but I don't think it's good, in the long, when you think about it, it's like, does it allow the country and the monarchy to really progress into the future? Did she set England up for the future? So these are things to contemplate. She was organized. She was steady in relationships, a great planner. She was a force. I mean, she was a strong woman. That dragon energy is nothing to be messed with. She liked to stay active. She was ambitious. She was competitive. She could be abrasive. She also had a wild sense of adventure. Remember, she loved riding horses. I think maybe that was where her wild thing was, free to let loose, And she was also a natural leader. Just, again, it comes up in multiple places in her chart. A natural leader, competitive in nature, did not like to be talked down to, very independent, and she could be very aloof. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing that she lived this long. And blessings to the family. Blessings to England, Great Britain, and cheers to King Charles. So thank you. Be well. And feel free to subscribe and like. Comments are welcome. Just keep it positive. Thank you. Be well.